Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Steph Curry in the play-in tournament. What a world the Golden State Warriors live in now. Also, get ready to see a lot of Cole Anthony and Paolo Banchero. And Nico Harrison is staying committed to the bit. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Well, the Golden State Warriors, they secure their playoff spot in dramatic fashion with a win over the Memphis Grizzlies in the play-in tournament. They are the 7th seed. Here to talk about that game and their matchup against the Houston Rockets in a few days is Charlie Walter, one of the hosts over at Locked On Warriors. And Charlie, I know that Clippers game in Game 82, that was drama-filled. The Warriors said, we'll give you another one of those drama-filled games, but they get the job done this time around. How did they pull this one off? We saw Steph Magic, Jimmy playoff form was all for everybody to see. All in all, the Warriors get the job done here.
I guess the clinching moment was a 5-second call. I saw the fans on the sideline doing some of this. They weren't wearing their gold shirts, but they were doing the 5 count, and they said it first. They said 5, and then Zebra agreed with them as well, calling that 5-second count to give the Warriors the ball, knock down 2 free throws to go up 5 with 5 seconds to go in the game. That was your clincher. But a lot of ways the Warriors were able to get this done, starting with the role players stepping up. Quentin Post had 3 threes early in the game. I thought Moody, his point of attack on Ja Morant was excellent. I mean, he's quietly turned into a pretty good on-ball defender just with his length and the fact that they were able to match him up against Ja. That was an interesting matchup, and I thought he did a pretty good job. He was also crashing the glass. But it just felt like everyone for the Warriors was kind of on their A game early. It was a little mix and match minus Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler takes over when Steph Curry's out of the game, and just really the entire first 3 quarters, it was all Butler. He only had 2 in the fourth, but finishes with 38 in the game. But it's Butler's moments. He was just, facilitating, was extremely aggressive, got to the free throw line plenty, even knocked down some threes and some old-fashioned three-point plays. So he had his stretch there to allow the Warriors to take that big lead and just keep their foot on the gas for a little while. But closing-wise, it was all Steph Curry. That's what he does from time to time. And he was shaking that thumb. He had thrown up a few bricks from 3. He had missed a few of those turnaround J's and a few floaters. Like it wasn't looking great for a moment, but final 3-4 minutes of the game, he was the only name you heard.
And that's exactly what Steph has done, time and time again. And for this Warriors series against the Rockets, obviously Golden State going up against the young Houston team that obviously has a lot of very talented playmakers, but you have multiple times Steph Curry as a champion, Draymond Green, same thing. Jimmy Butler has been in plenty of big moments in the postseason. Charlie, when you look at this matchup with Houston, what do you like about it for Golden State, and how are you feeling going into it?
It's the millennials against Gen Z, I guess, at least at the top. It's interesting because the Rockets, Şengün's their guy, right? Not their leading scorer, I don't believe, but he's kind of one of their players that you run things through, and he's really turning into a nice player. But, Jalen Green, Jabari, they have Tari Eason, Dylan Brooks. They're defensive-minded, right? They're long. They're incredible. Like, you can't get any matchups you like because they're just so switchable at every single position. And the question with them is always going to be, can they outscore you? Their half-court offense is not great. They nullify that with the offensive rebounding abilities that they have and just with the toughness that they play with. It's an Udoka coach team. That's their identity. So that's one thing that I look at is I think every game is going to be close for that reason because I don't think the Rockets are putting up 120 on Golden State's defense. And I just think that most of these games in this series are going to be pretty close. I wonder if the Warriors can close out some of these clutch games. They did it on Tuesday night against Memphis, but the large sample size of the season, they have been very hit or miss. Kind of a microcosm of what we saw from this Memphis Grizzlies game where you go up 20, you blow the big lead. They're really tough to predict quarter to quarter. It's just been the way they've played all season long. When they're great, they're great. When they're not great, they're not great. And you just hope that their shots fall and that you get just enough from the role players if Butler and Curry are giving you 38 and 37 to hang on against Memphis isn't great. Their record says otherwise. I mean, they had a pretty good season, minus like a week or two.
Stay up to date all year on the Golden State Warriors by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Warriors on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, get ready to see a lot of Cole Anthony and Paolo Banchero. Before we get to that, Travis Hunter gives the NFL an ultimatum. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, there are so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. And looking at tonight's playing games, I have my eye on one of the point spreads. The Sacramento Kings are laying 4.5 points against the Dallas Mavericks, and the energy around the Mavs right now is crazy. So I'm taking the Kings to cover that spread. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Travis Hunter wants to play on both sides of the ball or else. When speaking with CBS, Hunter made it clear that no team has taken issue with him playing both wide receiver and corner, but that if it did come up, he'd retire. He told CBS Sports, quote, "It's never playing football again because I've been doing it my whole life and I love being on the football field. I feel like I could dominate on each side of the ball, so I really enjoy doing it." Hunter played 713 snaps on offense and 748 on defense for Colorado in 2024. He was the first player since at least 1976 with at least 500 receiving yards. He had 1,152 last season and 4 interceptions in a single season, according to ESPN research. The NHL playoffs are all but set, and the top team in the East, the Washington Capitals, got a big win to end their regular season.
The Capitals get back into the win column as they down to the Islanders by a score of 3-1. Hi, this is Dan Homey of Locked On Capitals. Well, this win tonight felt extra sweet as the Capitals struggled this past weekend against the Blue Jackets. And the game tonight, well, it was all about Mr. Dylan Strome as he scores his first hat trick as a Capital, scoring goal number 27, 28, 29, putting up career numbers. Definitely one of the key pieces for the Capitals this season. And the win tonight felt extra sweet to me just because, you know, the Capitals defied expectations, winning the Eastern Conference, winning the Metro, all of these kind of things, but it felt a bit shallow as of late as this team has struggled. So a bit of restored confidence with the win tonight. Ultimately, we don't know who the Capitals are going to play in the first round of the playoffs, but a big win for the Capitals tonight. Charlie Lindgren, huge for the team as well, saving 33 of 34. Let's go, Caps.
And on the diamond, the Cincinnati Reds are above 500 after they won their 4th straight game thanks to newcomer Austin Hayes.
This is not a drill. The Cincinnati Reds have won 4 straight ball games, and after a big-time win on Tuesday night, the Cincinnati Reds are over 500 for the first time since early on last season. Yeah, I know this is still early on to be getting too excited about being over 500, but they're playing some good ball. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast, and it was a complete ball game. The Cincinnati Reds lineup went crazy. The pitching staff picked up from where Nick Lodolo left off. It wasn't the best of start for him, but ultimately it was the Austin Hayes introduction to Cincinnati with a 3-run bomb that put him ahead for good. He had a multi-hit night, and the Reds put 6 on Luis Castillo, the most runs he's allowed in a Mariners uniform since 2023. And it's the first time that he faced his former team. Sad to see the Reds beat up on La Piedra, but happy to see him win. See if they can get the series win and their 5th straight win tomorrow.
The Orlando Magic defeat the Atlanta Hawks. They secure a spot in the 2025 NBA playoffs. Here to talk about that with me from the Locked On Magic podcast, it is Philip Rossman-Reich. And Philip, this game for Orlando and this young core meant so much to them for a spot in the postseason. They get the job done over Atlanta, and honestly, in pretty convincing fashion when it was all said and done. Let's start with the game first. How did Orlando pull this one off?
Yeah, it was really just resolve. It was just determination. You know, they just played this dominant defensive game throughout the first half. They were able to make enough shots to build a 22-point lead. They really moved the ball well, and even though Atlanta did such a good job kind of loading up on Paolo, Banchero, and Franz Wagner, the two stars. Orlando found pockets to score, but as is often the case in the NBA, that lead disappeared entirely in the third quarter, and Orlando had to kind of find that groove again. They had to find it again, and they turned to a really unlikely source, Cole Anthony, with 26 points in the game, really stepped up in the fourth quarter, got the ball rolling, and then the avalanche, and as so often happens in these kinds of games, the ball really rolled and the avalanche happened, and the Hawks could not get this thing back. Orlando just expanded that lead out, and it was game over, and the crowd here at the Kia Center got to enjoy a really lively fourth quarter to celebrate the victory.
How impressed are you with Orlando's young core? You know, obviously throughout the season, and then picking up a big win like this in a playoff atmosphere in Orlando, getting playoff basketball back to Orlando. This is a young group. I know they have some vets that have been steering the way at times, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and others. But for such a young core, this has to be a very positive step for a team that we know can be dominant when everything is hitting.
Yeah, I mean, it was impossible for me not to reflect on how this team has grown through the last year in a game like this. You know, the team talked over the last few days about how this was like a game 7. Like, they couldn't quite put their finger on what a play-in game was. They've never been in one. It's not quite winning in. They get, they have the cushion of another game on Friday if they would have lost, but there's a lot of talk like this is like a game 7. Well, the Magic were in a game 7 last year, and even when they were up 22 in the first half and the lead started slipping a little bit late in the second, like, I turned to some of my fellow writers. I was like, this feels exactly like game 7 last year. This is exactly the same test for this young team. And so, while the Magic are not the seed that they would hope to be, injuries played a big role in that. Overcoming that adversity, answering the call when they're put in similar situations under similar pressure, that shows a lot of growth, and that shows that this team is still on the right track. They were in the playoffs last year. They expected to be in the playoffs this year. They had to deal with those expectations. They passed that test, and they made a really nice statement in this game.
Now they are going to move on to play the Boston Celtics in that 2-7 matchup. Boston, we know, the defending NBA champions, they are deep. Their starting 5 is one of the best, if not the best, in the NBA. It's a challenge for this Orlando team, but Philip, how do you like the matchup for Orlando, and where can you see Orlando maybe exploiting some Celtics weaknesses where they can?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about who can stop the Celtics, and consistently one of the teams everybody talks about is the Orlando Magic. They have size, they can switch 1 through 5. They lead the league in giving up the fewest number of three-point attempts per game in the league. The Celtics obviously shoot around 50. Orlando gives up something like 31, 32. There's going to be a real big push and pull here on which style is going to win out. And the Magic, when they are dialed in defensively, they are good enough to stop any team from scoring. Now, obviously, the issue is, can the Magic score enough? Can the Magic hit enough threes? Can the Magic stay in the race that way? That's going to be the big challenge of the series for Orlando. And Orlando's offense, obviously not where it wants to be. They really struggled from 3. They're the worst three-point shooting team in the league this year. They bumped up to 35-ish%. Even in this game tonight, they shot only 28.2% from 3. Orlando's going to have to find a way to make up some of that three-point math or completely limit or stop the Celtics three-point shooting, that they have the personnel to give themselves a shot at it. They've given the Celtics fits before. It may not be a long series, but it's going to be a challenging series for Boston.
When you look at potentially one X factor on this Magic team that maybe not a lot of people are talking about, obviously Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, those are all guys that people know. Who's one player on the Magic do you feel like more people should be talking about heading into this series?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting players because of their versatility. I think that there's been so much struggle with a lot of players that it's been easy to write off some guys. And so I would say I would put to 2 players, and the Magic's 2 centers essentially. Wendell Carter, he has really struggled from 3 this year, but over the last month and a half, he's really stepped up his defense. He's able to step out onto guards to defend the perimeter in addition to defending bigs. He's obviously got a big matchup with Kristaps Porzingis, but honestly, the guy that I would really have my eye on as kind of the postseason wild card for Orlando is Jonathan Isaac. In this game tonight against Atlanta, Jonathan Isaac was absolutely critical in putting the Magic in a position to win the game. He blocked shots at the rim. He stepped out, defended on the perimeter, cleaned up the offensive glass. He has a long history, a relatively long history, considering the few matchups they've had. He plays Kristaps Porzingis really, really well. He has the length and size and mobility to deal with someone like Porzingis without needing to bring help, and he can switch out onto a Tatum, he can switch out onto Brown. Jonathan Isaac is playing his best basketball of the season right now. He's in a little bit better shape. He's able to go a little bit longer. The shooting and offense may not be there, but he's going to be a defensive menace, and his versatility and his ability to switch is going to be vital to what the Magic are going to try and do in this series.
Stay up to date all year on the Orlando Magic by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Magic on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Nico Harrison still believes so desperately that he's right. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Posting your job is free and simple, and within a day, you will have multiple qualified candidates to choose from, and you can create cost-effective growth for your company instead of hiring full-time. Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. GM Nico Harrison just won't let you or I forget about the horrible trade he made to send Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. Locked On Mavericks host Nick Angstead got the details on a closed-door presser from WFAA's Michelle Montaigne.
Did Nico have opening comments, or did he just kind of say, hey, we're here to talk about a stadium? And imagine there are some fan bases, their most frustrating thing ever has been like building a new stadium. Imagine that would be so nice.
Yeah. He did have opening remarks. He talked about, he kind of praised like getting the chance to work with Rick, talking about him taking leadership, to the highest levels and them reaching their business goals together. He did say, look, I'm going to address any trade questions you have and then really talk about the blueprint for how we're going to move forward. That was Nico's kind of opening sentiment. Now, I do want to touch on this because this kind of led the way into some conversations down the road within like the back half of the hour. He said, look, the team that I intended to have on the floor post-trade was a championship caliber team. And for 2.5 quarters, again, he opened with this. For 2.5 quarters, it was a dominant defensive team. He said that the philosophy that he built this team on was that defense is going to be our mainstay from here on out. I'm building this team on versatility and depth. And he said that starts the front lines with AD, PJ, Gaff, Lively, etc. Then he went into the fact that he feels really good about the roster's balance. And what I mean by that is he basically broke the roster as it's currently constructed into 3 categories. He said there's the group of guys who are our championship veterans. They're leading the way. Of course, that's Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Anthony Davis, all guys who have an NBA championship to their name. He then said the next group of guys that they have are guys entering their prime. Think of Daniel Gafford. I think he put Najee Marshall in that mix. Yeah.
PJ.
Those are the guys, I think he included PJ there, who are either in their prime or like entering their prime. And then there was, and clarification here, he gave an age group for that. He said guys kind of between like 26, 27, 28, 30 as the guys kind of entering their prime. And then he said there's this young group, and that's your Derek Lively's, your Jaden Hardy's, your Max Christie's. Those are the guys who are still kind of young enough to where there's a lot more potential for growth there. And he said that based on that construction, he feels like they are balanced and poised to win. And that's basically his entire opening statement summed up and how he decided to lead the conversation.
He mentioned defense wins championships a lot. You said you have the transcript of how many times he said defense wins championships throughout the entire hour. How many times did he say that?
Well, I counted the defense wins championships 8 times from the time that the question started. So it didn't include his opening remarks. I think he said it maybe once or twice in the opening remarks. And then he mentioned the word defense and like, we're going to be built on defense. Like that built on defense was another phrase that was used a number of times. This is all just from my own transcription that like I recorded, because we were allowed to use a recording device to transcribe the conversation. We are not allowed to share that audio.
Jackie Robinson was the first to break baseball's color barrier at the Brooklyn Dodgers 78 years ago Tuesday. His legacy continues to inspire people of all walks of life. Every team playing Tuesday wore number 42 jerseys. It's the only number universally retired in the majors. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts said about the day, quote, "It's not just a one-off day. We understand what this man did for our world, our country. This is how you go about life. This is something for me, keeping his legacy burning." If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we are here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, will the Dallas Mavericks live to fight another day or fall into the offseason? So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.